diabetes and the HBA1C test. So what is the HBA1C test? Well, the HBA1C test, it is a 3-month average as to tell how well your diabetes has been controlled or the sugar has been controlled. Okay. Now here's the issue with the blood testing. The HbA1c test, it is a gauge as to how well your sugar has been controlled over the past 3 months. Now the HbA1c test, it is not a sugar test, but it is related to your blood sugar. Now let me just talk a little bit about the blood sugar and a common error that people may make in interpreting their blood sugar values. So let's say a person gets up in the morning. Let's say they get up at, let's say, 6 a.m. Okay, they just got up. They did not eat anything. They decide to test their sugar before eating, before taking medication. They do a finger stick with the machine that they have at home. And let's just say, for argument's sake, it comes back as 100. Okay, so the person looks at this and they say, okay, my sugar is under control because I did a finger stick and it's 100. But here's what happens. So here it's at 6 a.m. Now the person, let's say at 6:30, they eat their regular breakfast and they take their meds, okay? And in this case, now the sugar goes up to, let's say, 200. Because in this particular case, the medication is not really working for them for whatever reason. But now sugar has gone up to 200. But the person doesn't know, because the person doesn't stick the finger again 2 hours after meals and medication and is working with the 100, thinking that because the sugar was 100 when they got up in the morning, that it will be controlled for the rest of the day. And all they need to do is take their medication. And what happens in this, let's say, this example, the person's sugar goes up to 200 after eating. And for more or less the rest of the day, it fluctuates at around the 200. Let's say it fluctuates between 180 and 230, for argument's sake. And that's a high value to be exposing your body to for 10, 12 hours for the day. So what happens? Now, cycle repeats. So now they go to sleep. So they take their last meal. Let's say they take their last meal at 9 p.m. Okay, then they go to sleep. And they sleep for 6 to 8 hours. 6 to 8 hours sleep. And now the body has time to clear the sugar. So let's say at 9 p.m., let's say they went to sleep and the sugar was 200. Body has 6 to 8 hours to clear the sugar from the body. So it now drops down to the 100. And in the morning, again, when they get up, let's say 6 a.m. again, they retest the sugar, they see 100. And again, they're deceived into thinking that everything is okay. And this goes on for years. And then the person is actually has uncontrolled diabetes for years and is just totally unaware of the situation. Okay, and then they develop the complications of diabetes. So what HbA1c means here, that is HbA1, that is your hemoglobin, or that is the protein, that is the oxygen carrying protein in the red blood cells, and C stands for carbohydrate, or in this case, the glucose. Okay, you see here red blood cells in the blood. Okay, red blood cells. Okay, and now within the red blood cells, you have the hemoglobin protein that carries the oxygen. Okay, that's your hemoglobin there. That is how the red blood cells are able to actually transport oxygen. Great. You eat, glucose gets in the bloodstream. So let's say these blue circles represent glucose molecules that are floating around in the blood. Now, in some cases, not in all cases, not for all red blood cells, but in some cases, you will have the glucose attaching to the hemoglobin. Okay, good. So in a person who's not diabetic, or a diabetic who is well controlled, the percent of hemoglobin in the body that has glucose attached to it normally would be 5.9% or less. Okay, 5.9% or less than or equal to 5.9%. Now, let's say now the person is diabetic and not controlled. Obviously, I'm going to draw some more blue circles because you're going to have more glucose floating around in the bloodstream. And then a greater percent of hemoglobin will have glucose attached to it. So when the person comes in and they do an HbA1c test and it is uncontrolled, it will be greater than 5.9%. Okay. So now how long is this HbA1c valid for? Okay, now the HbA1c test, it gauges how well your sugar has been controlled from the day of the HbA1c test go back 3 months. Okay, so it is like an average of your blood sugar control. It is a test generally that you can't fool. So let's just run through another scenario here when it comes to the HbA1c test. Okay, so let's say you have a person who is diabetic. Okay, so this person here is diabetic, and generally the person is not controlled. The person doesn't take their medication, so the person, in terms of medication, doesn't take it, doesn't eat well. Okay, generally. Now the person that say that morning they have a clinic appointment, and they know that when they go to the clinic, the nurse is going to check the blood pressure and check the sugar. This is a health center here, so they go into their clinic at the health center. Okay. What happens is, because the person knows he's going to the health center, and that morning he takes his medication. That morning he eats well. Okay. He goes to the health center, they do a finger stick, and after meals and medication, the person, let's say, has a blood sugar of 120, because that day, that morning, he took his meds and he ate properly. He get the 120. So again, okay, and the nurse says, okay, thumbs up, you're good. Okay, so it seems that you've been doing a good job, apparently. But of course, when he goes back home now, he goes back to the old lifestyle, not taking the medication, not eating well, not exercising, not sleeping well. Okay. So now, however, on the day that he's not going to the health center, he will eat whatever, not take medication, and then if a finger stick is done, 2 hours after his meal, it may be 250. Now this is actually, in reality, the high values is what are typical for this person. The day of the health center or the clinic, that's an exception. That doesn't accurately reflect what is going on with the person during his daily life, throughout his normal life. Now, how does the HbA1c come into all of this? Now, again, same scenario. So, the patient normally doesn't control diabetes well. So, not control. If his diabetes is not controlled, his HbA1c is going to be above the 5.9%. Okay? It might very well be 8%. Now, if on that morning again, he's going to the health center to his clinic, and he decides he's going to, this morning, eat well, take his meds, good. Goes to the health center now, and they decide they're going to do an HbA1c. Just because he eats well and he took his medication, it does not mean his HbA1c will reflect as normal. It will still reflect as high, because it takes a while for the glucose to detach from the hemoglobin. Okay, he just can't normalize his HbA1c that morning by simply eating well and taking his medication. He can get a good sugar value at times by eating well and taking the medication that morning. But the HbA1c is going to, if it is high, it's going to reflect as high at the health center, even if he ate well, even if he took his medication. When we talk about diabetes, okay, we normally think sugar. Okay, your sugar is uncontrolled, and that is true. Sugar or glucose. Okay, uncontrolled. And it is true, if you're on uncontrolled diabetic, the sugar and the glucose will be uncontrolled. But also, when you are constantly exposed to high glucose in the blood, leads to high inflammatory levels, inflammation, as well as to leads to blood vessel damage. Okay, blood vessel damage, as well as it leads to nerve damage. Okay, now starting from head to toe, you are at a higher risk for stroke Okay. Higher risk for eye disease or blindness. Higher risk of heart attack. Higher risk for kidney failure in men. Higher risk of erectile dysfunction. For the feet, poor circulation, which can lead to ulcers, which can lead to amputations. Also, the nerve damage, or what's called diabetic neuropathy, which leads to the burning and the numbness and the discomfort in the foot. Okay, so this is just, of course, a short list of what uncontrolled diabetes can lead to. Okay, now if you're diabetic, uncontrolled, and you decide, okay, I'm going to take charge of this now, and you're going to do some blood tests. Yes, you could test for quote-unquote everything, but if you're working with a budget, there's some basic things that you can check for. So let's start with that. Okay, so if you're in terms of blood work, right, so in terms of the blood work itself, you want to do what is called a complete blood count, or CBC. What is of particular importance here on the CBC is the hemoglobin, or what is called the blood count. The entire test is called the complete blood count. It tests for white blood cells, red blood cells, the hemoglobin within the red blood cells, the platelets, and other factors. But one of the main things you want to look at is the hemoglobin, which shows up on the complete blood count. If you have low hemoglobin, then you will be classified as anemic. And how does this tie in with diabetes? So if the hemoglobin is low, okay, there's anemia. Normally, if the hemoglobin is below 10, okay, on average, you'll be classified as anemic. Now, how does this factor into diabetes? Well, this actually ties in with the kidneys and the bones. So, now one of the main causes of kidney failure and kidney disease is uncontrolled diabetes. So let's say this is your kidneys here. Okay. Right, so we all are familiar with kidneys maintaining electrolyte balance, producing urine, getting rid of waste substances. Okay. There's another function of the kidney. The kidney produces a hormone called erythropoietin, or short EPO. Right? Now, EPO stimulates the bones. EPO stimulates the bones, which produce red blood cells. Okay. So let's see the bones here creating red blood cells because they are under the stimulation of EPO, which comes from the kidneys. EPO again stands for erythropoietin. Now, if you have uncontrolled diabetes and the diabetes is now damaging the kidneys, okay, it's starting to damage the kidneys now, and so the kidney's ability to produce EPO is impaired. So your EPO levels now fall, they drop, which means the level of stimulation to the bones is less, which means you're going to produce less red blood cells with time. And with time, that reduction in the production of red blood cells is going to reflect as a low hemoglobin, and you may eventually become anemic. So you would want to do the complete blood count, okay, to check for your hemoglobin levels, as well as you would want to check, well, obviously you want to check your kidney function. So when it comes to the kidney function, I'll speak on one of the values. So again, this is the kidney here. Okay, so the muscles in the body produce a substance called creatinine. Okay, this is your muscle here. So the muscle produce creatinine, creatinine, which is a waste product. Okay, now creatinine and creatine are two different things. You see a lot of people in the gym, you take creatine supplements, and creatine is converted to creatinine, but creatine. Okay, so you know they sound similar, very similar spelling, but one is a waste product. Okay, and the other, well, helps the body to produce energy. Okay, but this is waste. Okay, and on the blood test, on the sheet that you get back, you will see something, an abbreviation. It may write creatinine in full, or you may say CR, or you may say CREA, depending. Okay. Now, if the kidney's ability to filter out creatinine is impaired due to uncontrolled diabetes, you're going to see the creatinine levels beginning to rise, and they will go above normal. Okay. So again, so you'll want to do your kidney test, and one of the values you're going to look at definitely is the creatinine. The other values on the kidney function test, sodium, potassium, chloride, blood, urea, nitrogen. Okay, the other factors here, but I just want to hone in on this one because this will be a gauge as to how well the kidneys are functioning. It will tell if your kidneys are if you're getting kidney disease due to uncontrolled diabetes. Okay, so that's the next one you would want to do. All right, so under the blood test, again, so the blood test. So we mentioned that you would, well, of course, you'll want to do a HBA1C, right? That's what you want to do. You still want to do a fasting blood sugar, right? You'll do the kidney test, as we just mentioned. And you would want to do your complete blood count. The test look at especially the hemoglobin levels. Okay. Now, what else can you include in this? Well, I would definitely include what is called a lipid profile. Okay. Lipid profile. Right. So the lipid profile, this can be broken down into the triglycerides, which is a type of fat, and the cholesterol. Okay. The reason this is important here, because when you factor in these values along with the HbA1c, it does give you like an estimated risk of you having a cardiac event. A cardiac event is just like a heart attack. Okay, so the uncontrolled diabetes itself, as we mentioned before, does put you at risk for heart attack. And then you also have to look at your lipid profile to see if there's an additional risk for heart attack on top of an uncontrolled diabetes. Okay, right. So let's talk a little bit about the diabetic neuropathy, or the nerve damage, or the burning, the tingling, the numbness in the foot. Right. So let's talk a bit about nerves here. So this is your nerve fiber. And the nerve fiber itself is coated in what is called myelin, which is a type of fat. It's made up of fat. Right, so the myelin, which is like the insulation on the nerve, and the myelin or the insulation isn't continuous. There are actually gaps built in there that causes the electrical impulses to travel a bit faster. Okay. Now, when you have uncontrolled diabetes, for simplicity's sake, what happens is you have damage of the insulation. So what you don't have what you get here are erratic signaling patterns from the nerve, and then what happens is the brain interprets this erratic signaling. Let's go back to the brain. Right, that's your brain here. Right, so when the bad signaling comes back to the brain senses pain, tingling. Okay, and of course, because you need nerves to feel, what happens is that when the nerves are now damaged, you have reduced sensation, and that is when the numbness comes in. Also, as well, before a person gets full-blown numbness, what they may report is that they feel like they're walking on gravel or sponge, and you find the balance of the person it's off, because the person's brain cannot sense exactly where the feet are for lack of proper nerve signaling from the feet back up to the brain. So instead of the person walking normally, what you will find is the person is struggling to find balance. So they'll walk rather cautiously, you'll walk something like this, because they just can't sense. They have to be very conscious as to where it is they put their feet. It's not as automatic as before. Again, one of the consequences of uncontrolled diabetes, which you must jump on quickly. And how do you catch that? You do your HbA1c. Everything here comes back to proper monitoring and understanding your values. Okay, you have to know which values, what are the weakness of certain readings. Okay, and you have to know that what is the value of the HbA1c as compared to the fasting blood sugar. Okay, so it's all a matter of information, gathering the information in a timely fashion, and then acting on the information. Not just knowing you are on control. Okay, it's good that if you're on control, you do the HbA1c, and it is found that you are on control, okay. But what do you do from there? Okay, you just can't say, well, I'm on control and that's that. Okay, it really should not work like that. Okay, so we spoke about circulation. Okay, so if the blood vessels are being damaged due to uncontrolled blood sugar, what you have is, let's take the foot. Very common issue here with diabetics. So the blood vessel supplying the foot. There's a pulse on top of the foot. Okay, you can actually feel it. Okay, so let's say now, right, so that's the blood supply to the foot. So imagine if the blood supply now is being compromised due to uncontrolled diabetes, so now you have less blood flowing to the foot. The thing about blood carries the nutrients and the oxygen needed to maintain healthy skin, healthy muscles, healthy tendons, healthy ligaments. Okay, so what you would have is a reduced quality of skin. Skin is more brittle due to reduced blood, as well as due to the impaired nerve supply due to the uncontrolled diabetes. It makes the person very prone to ulcers breaking out on the foot. A common pattern of an ulcer breaking out on the foot, let's say the person has reduced sensation. If you don't feel very well, the touch sensation is impaired. So the person is walking at home, they step on a glass splinter. Okay, so now they have a splinter in the foot, but they don't feel that. Okay, because what happens is, remember, the person has impaired sensation. Okay, so you have a splinter in there, nothing is done about it. A couple of days pass, infection builds up, and of course, if you are diabetic, if you're uncontrolled, the high sugar within the blood, it makes it more difficult for your body to fight off infection, as well too if there's higher sugar in the blood. That's a good medium for bacteria to fester, bacteria and infection to fester. So the person walks around with a splinter in the foot. Then one day, they take off their socks and they realize there's blood on the socks. They look under the toe, and what they see here, an ulcer has now broken out. It has progressed beyond the splinter, the initial splinter sticking the toe. Okay, now you have an open ulcer of high sugar values, something that's been there for a while. So now there's infection. This needs to be dealt with very quickly. Now, yes, antibiotics, cleaning the area as well of any dead tissue, but also again the sugar control. You can't be taking antibiotics, cleaning the area, dressing it properly. All of this is well and good, but you still have to control the sugar. Okay, controlling the sugar is a big part of it. Okay, but at the end, but what I'm getting at here, this is the mechanism as to how it is an ulcer can break up. One of the mechanisms. Okay, and then let's say it festers, nothing is done, then eventually the person have to amputate the toe. Okay, and then again, now if you amputate the toe, now an open area here again, you have to dress this, clean this, but the sugar is not under control. It spreads. And then what happens now, you are now forced to amputate part of the foot now, okay? And then if this keeps going on, this is how a person ends up losing their leg, okay? One of the mechanisms. Okay, so it is very important that you control the blood sugar levels, because it does protect you from developing a whole host of other problems, okay? Which would then, of course, lead to a reduced quality of life. So I hope this was useful. Hope you understand now, again, the usefulness of the HbA1c. Main value of the HbA1c is telling you if your diabetes is actually controlled, and that making sure that you're not deceived by a good fasting blood sugar value. The fasting blood sugar is good when you get up in the morning and you want to stick the hand, that's fine. But you should also do a finger stick 2 hours after you take breakfast and medication to ensure that the medication combination is actually working for you. Okay, you just can't assume the medication is working for you. A lot of people are put on medications with the expectation that their regimen is to be tweaked. Because you're taking the recommended medication as prescribed, it is no guarantee that the sugar is controlled. You still have to test and tweak and adjust the values, okay? So I hope this was useful. If you have any questions concerning diabetes, diabetic foot, you want to do blood testing, general checkup, eye exams, stroke rehabilitation, okay, you can give us a call, contact us, send us a message, and we will be happy to help.